Damn it. I haven't been scared in a while, so I went to go see Scary Stories to Tell Others and Yourself in the Dark. I forget the name of the title of the movie. Anyway, this is a very political film. It has a lot of political commentary in the background, despite it being a spooky story about kids basically reading ghost stories and then disappearing from off the face of the earth. The beginning of shot of the film has Nixon's name with a swastika written in where the eye is, and then it has some white dudes coming out of a draft center, and the one white dude that is singled out in the group of friends is particularly awful. Like every time he's on screen, he's just doing something that you only hate him more for. He's lazy, drunk, drives around while drunk, uh, just completely destroys somebody's car because he's an asshole. He steals candy from kids. It's pretty bizarre. But besides the politics, the film itself isn't. It's not scary. It undercuts itself too much to be scary, but it's a shocking. When the loud noise is accompanied by the spooky picture. That happens all the time in the movie. So it's not my cup of tea, but if that's what you're into, then it offers that in spades all over the place, and even gratuitously so. But we'll get into that. So just a little preamble. The film is a story about a girl and two guys. They're all friends in high school. They meet up with apparently a Latino boy who's traveling through town, and they get involved in some kind of wacky hijinks, which ultimately ends up with two of the four disappearing, and one of the ones ending up in the Vietnam War. So, all in all, good ending. Let's try to go through it. Let's try to go through the film in chronological order. So, as I said before, the film begins. Nixon is a Nazi. And now, mind you, in the context of the film, Nixon is running for president. He's not president yet. I believe Lyndon B. Johnson was still president. And if those of you who don't know, Nixon actually ran on a campaign of reducing the war effort in Vietnam, I believe. Which, when he became president, then he increased the war effort. But the film makes an argument to tie Nixon towards pro-war, which in hindsight, he did expand the war effort, so he was pro-war, I guess, or at least believed that was the best outcome, even though at the time, Vietnam was completely fucked, and it ended up kind of biting him in the ass pretty hard. But, yeah, I don't know, the film is not very consistent in the ending message with the rest of the film. But we have some white guys who are just total asshole dicks, and they're basically terrorizing these kids, and we don't really understand why. The kids are all kind of like doing some shit, talking on walkie-talkies like a Stranger Things or some shit. And we see this one kid who's a little bit heavier set. Not heavier set, he's kind of like a dad bod for a kid. And he's in the bathroom, and when we cut back to him again, he's got a little fishing thing, and he's like breathing into it, breathing out and into it. And then we see him use it, and he's literally fishing for turds. And then his sister is shown seeing him, and she calls him like a freak. So I think, based on how that scene goes, we're supposed to believe that he's fishing for his sister's turds, which, I mean, that's amazing. I've never seen a film push the envelope that far for brap and scat and shit fetishes, where a character who is a main character in a positive role is literally fishing for turds in the toilet. Amazing. Amazing. So what ends up happening is the turds are used for like one of those burning poop bags to basically get back at the bullies, who are a bunch of just like the worst assholes of all time. Every time they're on screen, they're doing something that is like just totally douchey. They have nothing redeemable about them at all. So they basically get back at the bullies by pranking them with flaming poop and shit, and then the bullies chase after them, and the kids run into a drive-in theater, and that's where they meet the Latino dude, who honestly I thought was Indian when I first saw him. And then they hide in the car. The white guys are trying to get him to come out of the car. They're gonna like fucking kill him, and the white guy says some racist shit, and then the owner of the cinema place is like, "Get the fuck out of here, you stupid little shits." And then the white guys leave, and then the one of the friends is like, "Oh, where are you from? Where are you really from?" You know, he asks one of those dumb questions, and then the other white friend, who's like pretty woke, is like, "Oh, I'm sorry, my friend's kind of dumb." So like, the film is in this weird place between like modern commentary and wokeness and like 1968. Like the characters are too woke for their era, but then they also randomly throw in like terminology that might have been used at the time. So like the girl in the scene where they're at the movie theater constantly uses the term flick. Oh, I love this flick. Oh, best flick of the year. And it's, oh god, is it bad? Oh, it's really, I don't know. It just comes off as like, it made me feel uncomfortable. It really did. Now I don't think anybody does a bad performance in the movie at all. I think everybody does a pretty good job uh, in all their performances. The girl, especially, she does a pretty good job. The Latino lover, uh, love interest character, he's kind of flat at times, but the girl did a phenomenal job, I thought, especially given that the material seems like there's not really a whole lot to go on. Like a lot of their personalities are more just like quips and jokes, or at least like the two male friend characters who end up getting taken out of the film. But I think it's more fun to kind of get into like what happens rather than like is it good or not. Because I had fun, but it's a good film in some ways. It's not a good horror film, but it's a good film for somebody. So the first scare, they get into the house. They go into this haunted house like randomly. The girl, oh no, I forgot about the worst scene in the whole film. Oh no, yeah. So there's a scene in the film where the bullies have just left. They're still at the drive-in theater, and the bully said something about like, "Oh, you're always running away, just like your mom." And the girl like starts crying and goes outside the car. And like the reason she goes outside the car is so that the two white friends can explain to the Latino guy who's now going to be their friend that like her mom ran away when she was younger and she never got over it and everyone bullied her about it and blah blah blah. And like the thing is like when I saw the bully say, "Are you gonna run away like your mom?" and like she had like a reaction, it like cuts to her and you see her reaction, and that clued me in as like, oh, okay, I'm paying attention to the film. I'm not on my phone. That means something to her. I can't wait to see that developed later on in the film. Literally, same scene. You're given all the exposition to understand that, and it didn't need to be in the film. Honestly, all the only reason it's set up like that is to get one of the parents out of the picture and then also create some kind of emotional drama and like kind of complex for the main character later. But honestly, it's pretty contrived and bullshit. And the way they just like dump it on you and like they don't even have any mystery about it. They just tell you everything right away. And it's ridiculous. And then she like goes to the side of the car after she's done crying. She's like, "Oh, it's Halloween. Let's go to a haunted house." It's like, huh? So that part, the beginning of the part is movie is really awkward because they're constantly like trying to work the film towards like the plot, and they really struggle to do that in the beginning. So they get to the haunted house, and then the bullies chase them there too, and they basically get trapped in the basement where Sarah Bellows, was like kept, and she's like I guess a lunatic who like told people scary stories, and then the scary stories killed them is the rumor, and then they get a book, and the book is basically filled with stories about like spooky haunted stories. Then we're at home or something, and the book starts writing in it, and it's basically writing the death of the white bully. And he sees this scarecrow, and every time he walks by the scarecrow, he's always like, "Fuck you, Harold," and he kicks it. And it's like literally, I mean, one, the scarecrow looks like a corpse, but like two, it's like, dude, why are you so mad at the scarecrow? Like, what's wrong? Like, he's just so pissed off all the time. Like every time we see him, he's drunker and madder. I don't get it. I do not understand this bully character. He's just always pissed, and for no good reason. I mean, he seems to be living large in the town, so but he's just an asshole. So he's like going to collect eggs, and he's like walking around in the fucking farm, the farm fields, and he gets lost, and he keeps getting turned around. And Harold basically comes to life and just stabs him in the gut and kills him, and then he becomes the Scarecrow. He turns into a Scarecrow, and like everybody's looking for this guy later on in the film, and like nobody like bothers to notice that the Scarecrow's wearing his clothes, and like he became the Scarecrow essentially. So the Sarah girl is basically like writing these tales of murder in this book that are now possessed by the main girl, and it's freaking her out. Nothing really happens for a while, nothing important anyway, and then we cut to Augie, I think his name was in the film, or August, and he's like he's the woke white friend. He is at home and he eats some stew, and they're all like, "Oh, don't eat the stew. The story, it's about you. You're gonna die. It's, oh my god, like don't know." And then he's like, "You guys are joking with me. Come on, this is some delicious stew." And he eats, like he puts the toe into his mouth. The story is called "Who Ate My Toe." Like, it sounds like a bedtime story for kids about dogs eating shoes or something. I don't understand. But it's called "Eat My Toe," and the kid, he puts the toe in his mouth from the stew, and then when he like pulls the toe out, it's like he like puts his lips over it like he was just sucking on a big juicy dick. Like he, I've never seen anybody so like consciously wrap their lips around something when they're pulling it out of their mouth. It is ridiculous. And he sees that it's a toe and he starts vomiting, and then he realizes like, oh no, I really am in a spooky story, I'm gonna die. Oh, and he's like runs away and he runs under his bed, and he like, and then this is when the camera is like really manipulative. This is one of the most annoying parts of the film. We see like the old lady, it's an old lady, and she's like, "Who ate my toe?" And she's like walking around, and like it's like the camera looks to the right, camera looks to the left, camera looks ahead. He like crawls out of the bed, and he like puts himself in the worst position possible. He looks over the bed, and then it's like, oh, I'm safe. And then like he looks under the bed again, down by his feet, and then like there's like an impossible camera angle essentially where like the lady is like screaming at the audience, and then the lady like grabs his feet and like drags him to like the dark abyss, and then they like find his drag nails on the ground, his scratch marks, and he's just gone. He's just gone the rest of the film. He's dead now or something, maybe. And they're all like, "Oh my god, he's gone," and everything's sad and blah blah blah, and then they do some like investigation about the Sarah girl. They go to the newspaper place, and then that leads them to go to the insane asylum. In the meantime, there's like the book started writing a story, but then they find out that it was about the guy's sister, but they thought it was about him because he has the red spot in his shirt, but it was actually about his sister. So like they go to the insane asylum, and or is that before or after? I don't know. Who cares? They go to the insane asylum, and this part of the film makes no sense. So the Latino lover and the main girl go looking for the red room. Now earlier in the film, when they were investigating the haunted house, the stupid white friend, he was playing hide and seek with woke white friend, and he hid in the closet or something. And when he opens the closet doors, the room is like new, and there's like a scary old lady on the edge of the bed, and there's a dog, like a Doberman, that's like standing there like with his paws really far apart, and it's honestly, it's probably one of the scariest shots in the film. It's just very eerie. And then he closes it, and then you hear like somebody walking towards the closet, and you think like, oh fuck, like it's gonna be like the lady. But then it's the woke white friend. He found him, and then the guy's like kind of shooken up about it. So stupid white friend, he doesn't want to go with them to find the files because the files are in something labeled the red room, and he comes to refer to that room as the red room, the one that he had the spooky vision about essentially. So his plan is to just like walk through a mental hospital. Like he's just walking through it, and then like some guards are like, "Hey, like what are you doing here?" And then he's like, "Oh, oh," and he just starts like running. He just starts running through the hospital. So like naturally, everyone starts chasing after him, and then like they turn on the alarms, and it makes everything look red. And then the book like starts writing about like, "Oh, I'm gonna fucking get you. Here I come. I'm gonna kill you." And basically, this monster is kind of like there's a SCP monster where like if you look at it, it can't move, and then when you don't look at it, it like warps at you. And when you look at it, it's like still, and it has like a big bulbous head and like a weird like like trunk like arms and legs and a torso that's like a gummy bear or something. And that's essentially the monster that's coming after him, and it has a huge mouth. And actually, I think it's the cover of one of the scary story books actually. But anyway, he's like running down a hall, and there's the monster. He turns around, he starts running down the other hall. The monster's on that hall now. Like basically, wherever he goes, the monster is there until like it like gets him and then just like absorbs him into his stomach, but leaves behind one memento, his pen. It's like a nudie pen. You turn it upside down, you can see the woman's underwear and stuff like that. So then they know that he got eaten up, and it turns out that Sarah wasn't like telling murder stories. So like this is the part of the film where it's contradictory, but this is the part of the film that's contradictory in like a way that makes sense, I guess. So the film sets up that Sarah told ghost stories to kids and the kids died. That's the myth of the land. What they find out in the insane asylum is that Sarah is actually like a victim of her family who have been poisoning the land by like just like dumping, lead filled shit in the water, and then that's what caused they poisoned the water essentially, and a bunch of local children died from the toxic water. But the family didn't want that to get out, so instead they blamed it on their sister, daughter. They blamed it on Sarah, who was born with some like albino disease or something or whatever. I don't really know. So Sarah's an innocent, but then now, so there's a belief in myth at the beginning of the movie, and then you find out that it was actually like a like a like a corporate greed kind of thing. Like the family were these wealthy landowners. They were the people that put the town on the map with their mill, but they ended up killing some people because they wanted to like not dispose of their waste properly essentially, and it caused some people to die. So you have myth, reality is like corporate abuse and greed, and then you have myth again because Sarah is essentially actually killing people with magic now, and there's like some subplot about her and like a voodoo mama teaching her dark arts or something. I don't really know. It didn't really make a whole lot of sense. It was just meant to like move the movie forward. There's a lot of parts in this film that are just meant to move the movie forward that don't. They're just kind of like loose ends, I guess, or like they're kind of like red herrings that pop up, and they're like whack-a-moles. It's like this movie's got like it sets up all these like red herrings and you got like whack-a-mole down. So like they go through and they like check off all like the potential things that the film could be about. And then the woke friend is gone. Not stupid friend is gone, and then it's just Latino lover and main girl, and then like they end up in jail. And this one is pretty spooky. They're in jail, and the guy who comes to fight him is the jangler. He's like a corpse that can like separate his body parts and then like put them all back together again. And the cops like, oh, I'm not letting you guys out of jail, you damn draft dodger. So it turns out the Latino lover is not Indian, and his name is Morales, not Ramirez. As if that makes any difference. I don't even know why did they have that in the film? Was that just to like make fun of the racist white people? I guess because like they just gave him a random Latino name. I don't know. Anyway, turns out his brother died in Vietnam, and then he got his draft notice like a week later. So he's like, well, fuck, I don't want to die in Vietnam. Like I want to come back. And the film sprinkles out like anti-Vietnam critiques all throughout the film. So the film is solidly anti-Vietnam. I want to make that clear. It's funny what happens at the end of the film. So what the fuck? Oh yeah, they're in the jail. So they're in the jail, and the monster comes down the chimney, and the cop is like, oh, "What the fuck's going on? What's wrong with Woofers? He's looking at the chimney. What's going to go on here?" And the kids are like, "Just give us the fucking book. Let us out of the jail. We're all gonna die. Please give me the book. I want to know what's the story. Tell me the story." Like they're like, because like, and they don't ever make the argument that like, "Hey, if you tell me the story, maybe we can beat him." No, it's just like, I want to know the story," which is kind of bizarre to me. But one of the interesting things is that the guy, when he stands up, the jangler, I think that was his name. He's like 9 feet tall, and the cop just looks at him like, "Argh," like he looks like totally like mind broken, and he just like breaks the cop's neck and kills him instantly. And then he goes after the one guy, and he's like, "I'm coming for you, rookie," or whatever the fuck the Morales kid's name was. And then the girl like, oh yeah, there's the part where like it's like completely quiet. The film does this so much where like it'll drop out all the sound, and then it'll like have like a fucking like it'll cut. It'll have a loud as fuck noise, and something shocking will fly across the screen. So in this case, he like throws the cop's corpse at the jails for no reason other than just to give the girl access to the cop's keys. So he's like trying to kill Morales, and the girl's like grabbing the cop's keys, and she opens up her jail cell, and she opens up the guys, and the jangler guy is like stuck between the two jail bars at the moment. And then they go running away, and they get in the sheriff's car, and then he's like, "No, you gotta tell Sarah the truth. Gotta tell her that she was a victim. You gotta tell the truth." And then Morales, he goes running away in the cop car, and the jangler catches up to him, and he like crashes the jangler against a semi truck. And this is one of the most gratuitously like this is the part of the film where you're supposed to put your 3D goggles out. You're supposed to put your 3D glasses on for this one scene in the film. So what happens is that the jangler is reforming himself on the ground, and the camera is like kept up to like 5'9" or something, like 5 feet plus in the air, and you can't see the jangler reforming his body, and then but you know what's happening, and then the jangler like leaps up to the camera and like yells at the camera, and like the camera goes like wide angle, like you can see like it like it's pulling apart, like it's not just like a narrow focus, like you can see a lot of the shot, and it just felt like the most gratuitous thing I've ever seen in a film. Like it was just so obvious that it was gonna be like this stupid jump scare, and it's like the Morales kid is like 30 feet that way. Like, why are you yelling at a camera, Mr. Monster Man? Like, I mean, I know why they want to scare the audience, but it's like that's not scary. That's just fucking stupid. Like, I don't know. That's one of the part of the film for me that does not work at all. What happens after that? The rest of the movie is pretty gay, honestly. It's just like they go to the house, the haunted house. The girl gets. This sequence could have been so good, but it was executed so poorly. So the girl is trying to apologize to Sarah. She's like, "Sarah, you need to stop this. Like, you were a victim, but we didn't do anything to you. Please stop." And then Sarah like essentially like teleports her to the house when it was good and with her family, and the girl, the main girl, her name is Stella, mind you. She is Sarah in this world. They see her as Sarah. So like they're chasing her around, and they like get her, and they like take her into the basement, and then she's in the basement, and Stella's like in there, but she's like a ghost. And Stella or Sarah, both of them anyway. And Sarah's like, I guess, gonna kill her and then kill the Latino guy, and he's like running away from the jangler. And then Sarah's like, no, like, or Stella, main girl, not evil girl, main girl is like, Sarah, you know what you did, what they did to you was wrong, but you've become everything that that they treated you like. You've become a monster. You need to stop killing. You need to let go of the rage. So this is one of those we kill the evil spirit with kindness, kill it with kindness kind of movies, which I kind of guessed. Soon as you find out that the villain is like a little girl who's trapped in her family and like killing people with stories, you kind of know that's how the movie's gonna go. So Sarah is like, oh yeah, I guess, and she's like, here, write my story then, and she gives Stella the blood pen that she uses to write these stories of like murder essentially, and then she's like, this is the best part of the film is that Sarah explains how to use the blood pen. she's like she's like, use your blood. Like, I just, like, it seems so obvious that it was like a blood pen. All the stories are written in blood. Like, Sarah or Stella would know that. Like, she would know that you have to write them in blood. But like the audience is too stupid to understand why Stella would write them in blood. So they had to have the ghost Sarah be like, oh, by the way, how you use the blood pen, here's the instruction booklet I got from the Chinaman. You have to write the instructions in blood. Like, I don't know. They really think the audience is fucking stupid in this film. They spent so much time like tying up so many loose ends. It's so sad. But tie up loose ends she does. She basically writes away all the. She's like, Sarah was a victim. Her family were the real monsters. They poisoned the town and blamed it on their only daughter, who they ended up blah 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 blah, and that's how that goes. And then Sarah disappears. She like screams out into the ether, and then the Jangler just disappears. And uh, at the ending of the movie has three parts. Main girl sees Latino lover off because Latino lover. Now, mind you, the whole film has been critical of the Vietnam War, critical of Nixon, and just like anti-war, anti probably right wing, anti like white racism essentially. And then at the end of the film, the Latino guy joins the draft to go to Vietnam and die. What? The whole film was critical. I don't understand. I don't get it. Why? And then Stella is in the truck with her dad, and it's like it does a narration ending, and it's like, I don't know where my woke white friend and my stupid white friend are, but I have a feeling with these stories, I'll get them back, or no, we'll get them back. And then the camera swaps, and then the stupid white friend, his sister, who was supposed to be in an insane asylum because spiders came out of her face and she went crazy. She's like perfectly normal. So we know that people can recover from the murder stories in the book, essentially. So like the movie, it's not even sequel baiting. It's just completely like, this is the sequel. The sequel's gonna be, I'm gonna get my friends back. Bully friend might come back. And, like it just, and like the other guy's gonna be at the Vietnam War. You know, that's, you thought these were scary stories. Wait till you see Vietnam, kid. It's gonna be way worse than that stupid shit you were running away from. The Jangler. You were afraid of the Jangler. Like, dude, you got way more shit to be afraid of. You got fucking, you know, Ho Chi Minh and fucking Viet Cong and gonna be blasting your ass apart. Like, oh man, I don't know. So the movie, it's like a 4 to a 6. If you're really into like just having monsters scream at the camera, it's probably a 6. It's well acted for the most part, and the script works. It doesn't really leave too much shit to be kind of scratching your monkey skull over. But man, it's got some problems. Sound design is sound design is only noticeable when there was no sound playing, so that's a problem. They could have like used less annoying sound in my opinion, because it's like totally generic, like shocking and loud bullshit. But it's like a 5 out of 10. It's okay. It's not a complete failure. I had fun. That's the most important part. When you see a movie, you have some fun. So, yep.